Welcome back, and joining me now is Republican Senator Eric Schmitt of Missouri. Senator Schmitt, welcome back to Meet the Press.
It's great to be with you, Kristen.
Well, it is great to have you back. I do have to start on a somber note. I want to start by talking about this horrific plane crash here in the nation's capital. It claimed 67 lives. I know that you have been paying close attention to this investigation. President Trump, for his part, came out. He held a news conference, started with a moment of silence, quickly shifted to politics, including blaming diversity programs for the crash. Do you believe that President Trump runs the risk of getting ahead of the facts by drawing conclusions that he himself says he has no evidence that diversity programs played a role?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that our thoughts and prayers are with the families. This is going to be a long road for them. As everyone knows, this is a nightmare. You take a loved one to the airport. You never expect this to happen. The last time you ever see that person. And so I don't want, we'll talk about all that, but the human tragedy here, is something that's gut-wrenching for those families. My family's prayers are with them, and I know the country wants to wrap their arms around them too. They deserve a full investigation, and I think we've learned a few things already. But as it relates specifically to the president's comments, this is nothing new, Kristen. This idea of emphasizing DEI across the federal government has real ramifications. I don't think the president said, and as you just mentioned, not related specifically, we don't know. The investigation will find out. But broadly speaking, DEI is poison. It's hurt recruiting. It's hurt hiring. It's hurt retention. The hours spent on these struggle sessions during training is hours you don't spend on safety. And that's just a fact. And it's evidenced by the fact that 1,000 people sued the air traffic controller for not being hired because of their race. It's evidenced by the fact that you have also people who were fired from air traffic controllers and pilots for not taking the COVID shot. And then, the government then, of course, makes it a priority to hire 87,000 IRS agents to roam across the country and harass Americans. So this has become, Kristen, an obsession. And in the Commerce Committee, if you paid any attention that I've had, other members have had, to put these policies exactly what they've done, and they try to score political points by doing it, but it has real ramifications on the workforce.
Just very quickly, we have to point out that the FAA aviation groups say that every pilot, every air traffic controller has to pass the same rigorous test. They have to meet exceedingly high standards. But bottom line, Senator, what I'm asking you, do you have any evidence whatsoever that diversity programs played a role in this crash? Because the president said he doesn't.
Well, no one has said that. But I do think if you want to find a solution, you have to be honest about the problem. And the truth is, merit has taken a back seat to quotas. That's the truth.
Senator, we don't know that's the problem in this case. We don't know that that's the problem in this instance.
I know, but I think we can Kristen, we can distinguish what the investigation in this case versus writ large. It's also true in our military. Pete Hegseth is going to get rid of DEI in the military. It's divisive. It's hurt recruiting. The same is true across the government. People don't want to sit through these struggle sessions with this race essentialism. And by the way, the federal government is being sued for discriminating against certain employees because of their race. So this is a fact of the matter. It's true. And the one thing people care about is they want to get from here to there safely. I don't care, and Americans don't care, the race of the pilot or somebody in the tower or their religion or their gender. They just want the best people, and that is what we have to get back to in this country.
All right. Let's, as you say, your thoughts and prayers are with the families right now. I think that certainly is something that everyone can agree with. I do want to move on to tariffs, this breaking news overnight. President Trump, as you know, won in part on a vow to bring down prices. He's now imposing tariffs on the country's three biggest trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China. Can you guarantee, Senator, that these tariffs won't drive up prices?
Well, all we have to do is look at President Trump's first 4 years, where he instituted tariffs. We didn't see inflation. In fact, we saw record wage growth. We saw $200 billion plus go into the Treasury from those tariffs and help even the playing field with countries who've been ripping us off, quite frankly, for generations. China specifically, I think the American people are tired of being ripped off. They're tired of seeing their jobs go overseas. But I think these tariffs specifically, Kristen, are meant to bring Canada and Mexico to the table for the fentanyl that is streaming into our communities. It's also worth noting in the last 4 years that the trade imbalance and our trade deficit has gone up 200+% with Canada and up 52% with Mexico. The fact is these countries are taking advantage of us. All along the while, we've got fentanyl streaming into our country. So Mexico has a choice. They can choose to trade with the United States or continue to cozy up with the cartels. It's pretty simple.
But you talk about President Trump's first term. It's worth noting that during his first term, a number of prices did go up on various goods from washing machines and tires. You mentioned Canada. Very little fentanyl is coming across the border from Canada. Why is the president punishing Canada more than China, the country's adversary? Do you think that's right?
Well, that number is growing, though, Kristen. I think it's important,
but it's
especially in the last
right
year.
Now. It's minuscule right now.
But it's growing. It's growing, and when they have a porous border and they don't seem very concerned at all. And by the way, I heard the clip earlier, Justin Trudeau sort of lecturing Americans. My advice to him is he probably ought to talk to the Canadian people who are about ready to throw him out of office because he's been a total disaster. So I think we've got a president that wants to put America first and protect people. We have 100,000 people a year, Kristen, dying from fentanyl. He ran on this. This is not a surprise. He talked about getting operational control of our border. He talked about tariffs and improving our standing in the world. He's doing all those things. And look no further. The best evidence of this was last week. Colombia came to the table after that threat and agreed to take criminals back into their country and illegal immigrants. So the fact of the matter is it works. It worked the first time when he was in office. We didn't see inflation. We saw wage growth, and we saw more onshoring of jobs back here to the United States.
I have to ask you about the confirmation hearings. Of course, last time you were here in November, you told me you were a yes on President Trump's cabinet nominations. Some of your Republican colleagues this week expressing concern in the wake of Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearing. She's been tapped to be the director of national intelligence. Of course, she was pressed on whether Edward Snowden is a traitor, would not answer that directly. Senator, are you still a yes on Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation?
I am, 100%. I think she's very well qualified. No one's disputing that. She served our country honorably in the military. She's been a member of Congress. And I think she strikes a really important balance for a key position of civil liberties, protecting civil liberties of United States citizens, and also our national security. So I still think she's going to get confirmed. That's what this confirmation process is all about, for people to ask tough questions. I think she's going to do just fine next week.
Senator, very quickly to you, how would you answer that same question? Is Edward Snowden a traitor?
Look, I think it's so interesting that this lexicon that gets manipulated now. There was a certain words you needed to say during COVID. There are certain words that you needed to say now. The fact of the matter is the people who are most concerned and most pushing this narrative are the same ones who had no issues whatsoever with the intelligence community spying on a presidential candidate, that happened to be President Trump, suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story when he was running again, and then, of course, the lawfare that included. So I think people are tired of these games of this sort of this gotcha stuff. Look, if he's been indicted, if he ever comes back to the United States, he's going to have a trial. But this idea of you try to disqualify people by using these terms is ridiculous.
Well, and what I'm doing really, I mean, these are questions that were asked by your Republican colleagues, including Senator Langford, who asked very simply, is he a traitor, a government contractor who leaked government secrets? It's a very simple question, yes or no. We're almost out of time, though.
Sure.
Is he a traitor?
I think she was pretty clear. I think she's pretty clear
but what do you
that
think?
She served this country honorably. And I think it's totally ridiculous to try to smear people who are trying to serve this country because, again, it's sort of gotcha. And I will also point out a lot of the people that are asking this don't like her because she's going to bring reform. And she's going to curb the excesses and the worst instincts of the intelligence community at times that has gone after presidential candidates.
All right. Senator Eric Schmitt, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.